A little boom, boom, and zoom, zoom. All right, let's do it. I'm ready if you are. I feel like we need a hard gangster intro after listening to the song, Jared. Gotta come up with a banger.
How about you freestyle over the beat a little bit? I'll turn it down for you.
Oh, perfect. That'll get us so many more listeners. So many more
Untranslatable
listeners.
podcast coming at you. Fuck yeah. I got scared.
I can't even start the intro because you're making me laugh too hard. All right, let's try this. All right. Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable podcast. We are here recording episode 202, or I should say, I guess, today you are listening to episode 202. And today we've got hopefully a helpful and a fun episode coming your way. Today we are discussing how to say no in different cultures and different cultural contexts. And I think it's safe to say it's not always easy. Sorry, let me adjust this. It's not always easy to say no in any culture where you come from, and the way we might do it could be very different in different cultures. So we'll talk about that today. Any of our listeners out there coming from the Middle East know the very famous phrase, inshallah, which means God willing, which is a very nice way to say, as we would say in English, we'll see. And whether or not that will happen, I guess we'll just have to see. So we'll see what's going on today on today's episode, so stay tuned. And today we're going to show you some ways to say no in some different cultures. So my man who helps me out with all the knowledge, all the facts, all the good questions, my good buddy Jared. What is going on today, Jared?
That's my way to say no, is by ignoring people.
That's probably a more respectful way to say no than other ways, that's for sure.
That was a fun little moment I had there. Please, everyone, spread a little love. Oh, hello, by the way. It's good to be here. Weather is once again lovely. It's hot out. I loved having David on last week. It was great. Thanks for getting him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually talked to him a few hours.
Hard get.
Yeah, I talked to him a few hours before we recorded today, too. He's still doing good. And yeah, definitely shout out to David for coming on last week, giving us an update of what's going on in the Czech Republic. Check it out, pun completely intended there. Because,
betcha.
yeah, there's some interesting stuff about the coronavirus going on in the Czech Republic. I think they've done very well. At least as of the other day when I looked, they only had 64 remaining cases in the country. So it was great to talk to him and catch up.
Anyway, thank you. That was nice. Now, spread a little love.
There we go.
Please follow us on Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast. You'll see some fun clips. You'll see some pictures here or there. I went to the beach last weekend. That was great. Or you can give us 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher.
Pleasure.
Please
Believe it.
give us 5-star reviews, I should say. And Twitter, Untranslatable1, the number 1. I like to play around there. That's my where I hang out a lot of the time.
It's your digital stomping grounds, Jared.
Yeah, so if you want to see how I roll, look at some of the things I tweet and or retweet. untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. And you can give us emails too. Send us emails and give us untranslatables and whatnot. That would be fun.
Help us say no. We need to get better at that. That's for sure.
Do you have allergy issues? Do you struggle from allergies, I should say? Are you
You know what's odd, Jared? I've been diagnosed with allergies for basically everything that's outside here in Michigan. You know, pollen, dust, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I haven't taken allergy medication in like 3 years.
What?
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the moves abroad have impacted it. I've heard at least it's not uncommon if you're allergic to things like in the States and then you go to Europe or Asia or something, your body won't react the same with similar things over there.
I feel like I started getting, it's funny that you say that, because I feel like I started getting allergies when I was in Germany.
In Germany, interesting. Okay.
But I think, when I came back to the U.S., they persisted. They didn't go away.
Okay.
And like I hate like taking like pills and medication and stuff.
Right.
But the like the allergy stuff is the only thing I have to do, or else I can't function. People give you weird looks now, and I still want to be like, hey, yeah, I sneeze all the time, but this has nothing to do with anything. Okay.
Right.
Keep walking. I guess you don't want to get sneezed on, even if I...
Right. But at the same time, too, I don't think sneezing has been a big issue with the virus, right?
No, I don't think
I hear about
That's
people...
what I'm saying. But people don't know that.
Well, sure, that's true, especially in the States. Yeah.
I see that was
That's
unnecessary. Wow.
That's true. We're getting real negative real fast today,
And that
Jared.
was you.
I know. And I've had a great day today too. Maybe I've had too much positivity today, and I'm wearing my smiley
I love
face
that
shirt,
shirt.
so I got to bring some negativity in. I guess with all this
I really only
positivity.
asked because my allergies have been killing me, dude.
Okay.
And it's crazy. I have to take. I guess I can take. Just because I haven't gone to the store. I don't have any daytime allergy stuff, so occasionally I'll take Benadryl during the day, but only take
bad
one.
idea. Bad
I only
choice.
take one. And I usually time it up with when I'm either drinking coffee or like a big mug of tea or something. I'm
That's
not even
funny.
kidding right now.
I believe you.
And I'm
I
like, all
believe
right, I'm
you.
only taking
That's
one,
funny.
and I'm drinking a lot of coffee. I think this is going to equal out. And it actually kind of worked. I'm kind
Okay.
of tired right now, but the day's over.
I was
It's
about to
supposed be
say
tired.
if you hear Jared snoring, people, he accidentally took 2 Benadryl
No,
instead
it has
of one.
nothing to do with that. Chad is
It's
very
me
boring.
rambling on. Oh, that's funny.
I'm
Yeah.
doing everything in my power here to stay
But
awake.
you know what's interesting though about allergies, Jared, is that at least according to my allergist, they tend to get worse as you age. I know that's not what you want to hear.
I've never
but-
even gotten tested for anything. Like I've never gotten any sort of
Oh,
allergy
it's
test.
terrible. Do you know what they do?
I've heard. Isn't that where they stick all the things into your back?
Yeah, so they have these little. It kind of looks like a spiky Lego. At least this was years ago when I had it
Spiky
done. So
Lego.
maybe it's different. It's like it looks kind of like a plastic, square or rectangle. It'd be a rectangle. Clearly, it's been a while since I've been in geometry class. It'd be like it's like a
They have
rectangle
square,
with little spikes
they have
on
square
it.
Legos too. I always pictured it being more interesting. I always pictured it being like a what is it called when like an acupuncture or something. Because I did
Not
know
really.
they stuck a bunch of needles into your
Right.
back, but I didn't know the
Well,
nature. in which
it's
they
more
do
like
it.
a little poke, and the thing is, it's not painful. But if you do have allergies, anything you're allergic to, it
Oh,
will
right.
itch. So that's and they do it on your back. So there are certain spots where I remember when I got it done, like the one spot you couldn't reach was the one I think I reacted
This guy's
the
allergic
most
to a lot.
Right.
Oh my god, it looks like a tic-tac-toe board on your
It
back
does
too.
Yep, and they usually write on your back as well. So then,
I guess
it's
in
an
my
interesting
head,
experience.
One, I'm not great at going to the doctor, clearly, but in my head, I'm just like, I mean, I get it. It's like every time there's pollen all over the place, or like in the same time of the year, every year I start sneezing and have an
Right.
itchy throat and get congested. I'm just gonna imagine that's allergies and go on with my life. I don't need a bunch of
I think
pokes
it's
in my
safe
back
to say
tell me that.
Yeah. You know what's interesting though, Jared? Too. Speaking of not going to the doctor, I was reading some stuff on Reddit today. I was perusing Reddit a little bit, taking a break, and I came across this thread which I read for like maybe 5 minutes, and then I was like, nope, this is giving me way too much anxiety. The thread was
Murder
about
hornets.
The thread was all about when someone tells you, "Oh, don't worry about it. Everything will be fine." Like a doctor or a nurse or a medical professional, and then it gets worse, and then they go in. Half of them were like, "Oh, it was a bump," but they said, it's probably not cancer, and then of course it was cancer.
Oh yeah, why would you read that?
Yeah. I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I got halfway
Something
through, and
like
I was
that
like,
kind of happened to me. Granted, it wasn't deadly, but when I got mono in high school, because I'm I'm
You are a
careless with
promiscuous guy.
I'm careless with the water fountain here and there.
that's one way to put it.
That was not an innuendo, by the way. I'm careless with the water fountain here and there. No, I literally meant probably put my mouth on a water fountain. Anyway, I got it, and I went to. I had strep throat a bunch, so I just thought it was that. I went to urgent care a few times, and they're like, it was strep throat.
The swollen lymph nodes, right?
Yeah. One time, yes. One time they gave me medication. It didn't do anything. Another time they gave me a shot in the butt, actually each cheek,
Ooh,
which
fun.
I've never had before. And I
There you
could
go.
barely walk or sit down. It was weird.
Ooh, that sounds terrible.
Still, it persisted, and I went to a doctor, and they're like, "Yeah, you have mono. All that stuff they gave you was useless." So I took a whole bunch of medication and got shot in my butt
In
twice
the ass twice.
for nothing.
Oh, jeez.
All for nothing.
And mono, there's really no medication. I don't think is there. Like you just have to rest and get better.
I guess not. They gave me I guess not. I don't remember. I was young, but they gave me antibiotics. I do remember that.
Okay.
After that, I had to take for a while. But I don't think there's any cure or anything.
Right.
I think you're
Right.
right about that.
Yeah.
Hey,
interesting stuff. Yeah.
You know what I was also thinking about last episode, by the way, is I don't
What's
think
that?
we ever got to spread a little love. We got so lost.
Yeah, we did. We didn't actually. And I do have a shout out today.
David's dreamy eyes.
Right. That was very easy to do. That's for sure. Check out our YouTube channel if you want to see his dreamy eyes on Untranslatable Podcast on YouTube. Anyways, I have one shout out today. And as we've been discussing for the last month and a half or so, most of these are kind of COVID related. I try not to do that. It's hard to find stuff otherwise, at least the positive news outlets that I like to peruse. So I did find one, though, that I think is a nice one, and maybe it'll get our minds off of what's going on right now. And here's the headline for you, Jared. The piano inspires Tasmanian man to take his music to beautiful places. 3 years ago, Kelvin Smith decided to do something quite unusual. Play a piano in the most spectacular outdoor settings he could think of. Mr. Smith describes himself as a pianist who just does things differently. So he sounds like you, Jared, a pianist who just does things differently. I don't know what that means, but yeah.
The thing I do differently is not play the piano. That's what makes me different than other pianists.
there you go. With his passion for nature, the 41-year-old thought Tasmania was the perfect venue for his quirky quest. Originally from Gippsland in Victoria, Mr. Smith was one of 11 children, and the rule in their house growing up is they had to start playing piano at the age of 10, but could quit at any time. But he took it up and really loved it. And so now he's been playing outdoors in all these gorgeous places. There's a really cool video. I'm trying to see if I can find it. I'm not able to find it right now, but there's a really cool video I saw, Jared, of him playing on a boat going down a river.
Whoa.
And I just imagine that would be so cool, right?
Was it like a big boat?
It was like a little, like what I would imagine would be like a little tugboat or a little steamboat, I think.
Okay. I think it would be cool if he was playing in something that sort of like rocked, where like part of the challenge
canoe?
was also like holding your piano still and like...
Oh, geez.
And he almost like disregards fully the fact that it's just like a crazy ride in the background, like Titanic or something, and he's just like, ding, ding, ding. And everyone's like, man, the sails! Big waves coming. I like that. But I mean, it's great. And the one, if you just like type Google him, what comes up is a picture of him on the beach. That must be lovely for him too. Like, I mean, who wouldn't love to play outside, like play their instrument outside? It just seems so much nicer.
Well, Jared, I can tell you, as someone who has a very portable instrument as my instrument of choice, playing outside on the deck or the porch or the beach is definitely fantastic.
Yeah, and how else are the chicks gonna see? I was walking around my neighborhood yesterday, and there was these two guys, probably in their 60s, playing guitar on their front porch together. And I was like, that looks like a great time. There was good, too. It was good. If I would have stuck around if I wasn't the only... I don't know. I probably wouldn't have. But I enjoyed lining to it as I walked by.
Did you yell Freebird as you walked by?
No,
you have respect for yourself, Jared? I mean, you'd make him laugh, probably.
Oh, like as a request?
Yeah. That's kind of right. That's kind of the stupid concert joke, right? If there's a live band, somebody always yells in the crowd, "Play Freebird!" That's like something they always yell. I've always hoped that one day a band would just play it, because the song itself is like 9 minute longs. 9 minutes long. Oh yeah, I'm sure it has. But yeah, I just think that's really amazing, and I think it's a way that he can bring music to people that might not be able to hear it otherwise, especially what's going on now. So, if you're relaxing at the beach like you were over the weekend, Jared, imagine there was a really chill dude playing piano at the beach. Like, that would be awesome. You get your own little private concert.
Yeah. Would that be, though? Yes, it would be for a bit.
Well, sure.
At a point, I might be like, even if I liked it, I might be like, all right,
Well, sure. If he's playing for like 6 hours,
that's true.
But if it's for a little while, I think that's great.
That's true. That's a good point.
It's like anything, though, Jared. If you had to talk to me for 6 hours, I'm pretty sure by hour 2 you'd be like, all right, shut up. Come on.
I mean, maybe three. We used to
do 2 hour podcasts. That's why I said 2 hours, because we used to do 2 hour podcasts. But yeah,
you're the one that always has some some place to go. You're so concerned about making it long. I would do a 2 hour podcast right now. Well, not right now. You have to go somewhere.
Yep. Well, I don't have to go anywhere, but I have to teach. Yeah,
that's true.
Staying where I am.
Yeah, I guess I should be. I guess I should be clear. Yeah. Do you want to do some? I also
Vyborny.
Oh shit! I wanted to see what that was. I thought it would be something else. Let's do
That's
some
check for
untranslatables.
great. In case you're curious, yeah. That's
I thought it was
check
gonna
for
be
great.
something else. I heard when you were talking about wah.
Slipping on gator piss.
You betcha. Spread a little love. It's not there anymore. I had to go through all of them and check. See if I still had it. I don't think I have it. Let's get back to the untranslatable.
Let's do it. Let me get us started today, Jared. I have a few Ukrainian ones and also a few Portuguese ones. I'll get us started.
That was a slip finger.
Oh,
I'm
there
sorry.
we go.
I'm really getting loose fingered over here.
That's right.
Drops.
So my first one is Ukrainian today, and it is Vyluzu piornut, which means to fart in the puddle.
To fart in the puddle. Is it like to like? I'm taking it literally, and I'm thinking like to cause a rumbling, like to cause a ruckus, or to like
All right, let me
make
help
someone
you.
mad, or
Let me
like
help you.
poke the bear, maybe.
Let me help you. So say you poke the bear, or you cause a ruckus. Is that a smart thing to do, Jared? Do you think?
No, that's a bad decision.
Okay, it's a bad decision. And so I will tell you, this does have to do with saying something, but it means saying something in a certain way.
Oh, is it like you put your foot in your mouth?
I wouldn't equate
Fart
it
in a
1-to-1 to that.
puddle.
It more or less means to say something foolish or say something stupid.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fart in a puddle.
Not really sure why that is, but but yeah.
My first one is Arabic, and it is ta'al nas, and that it means now the people.
Now the people. Is it like when someone just keeps talking and talking and talking, and you're like, all right, come on, now the other people, like now the people.
No, I don't think you'd get this. I don't think it's.
Okay.
I don't think it's anywhere close to. Let's. Here's an example though. Like say me, you, and a bunch of people are hanging out at a party, having a good time, and I'm like, hey, it's 9:30. I'm gonna get out of here, and you're like, now the people.
So is it just like stay here, don't do that? Don't ruin the fun. Don't be a party pooper.
No. Is that what? Don't ruin the fun. Sometimes when I leave early, I'm like, all right, you're welcome, everyone. No, it means it's still early. That's why I said 9:30.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, I just know for you, Jared, that's your typical bedtime.
Maybe
so
it's like, I wish. Maybe it's like now the people. It's like like everything's
now
happening.
the people are coming.
Like now's the time. Like this is the time. Why are you leaving when now is the time?
Right.
You know?
That makes sense. All right. My next one for you is Portuguese. Shout out to my good friend Andrea. We had a nice chat yesterday. Although these are not from her, but she inspired me to do a couple of these. And the first one is partir a loicha toda. You should know what toda means.
I think it doesn't partir means to exit or something?
To break.
To break. Okay. Todo is everything.
Yes.
Could you say it again? Oh, all right. I'm gonna get this. Hold on.
Partir. I think it's loicha toda.
Okay. To break all the milk.
To break all the dishes. To break all the dishes.
I heard leche. I was like, is that supposed to be
Right,
like leche or something?
right,
You know,
which would be milk, right.
Trying to make it work.
That's
You're gonna
smart.
break all the
Yeah,
dishes.
it's a good strategy though, Jared. But yeah, break
Is
all
that
the
like
dishes.
to cause a ruckus? Is it like to make?
Boom! Hit that ham horn. Very good. Yeah.
That's very. Isn't that
Yep.
similar to your first one?
No. The first one just means to say something foolish. This
Right,
means to
okay.
cause problems. I mean, if you say something foolish, you might break all the dishes and cause some problems, but not necessarily.
Okay, I see. Okay. My next one is Turkish, and it's. Well, I don't know what the little squiggly under the S means. I'm gonna
Might be
guess
a
it means shh. Right.
I would think so, too.
Boşver is what I would say,
Okay. And that means?
and that means give empty.
I think we've used this one before.
Well, what does it mean?
It sounds familiar. Well, I'm trying to think. It sounds familiar. Give empty.
How dare you?
Isn't it like to give something without expecting anything in return? Like to do something out of the goodness of your heart? No?
No, but that's a good guess. I like
Okay.
where your head's at. Give empty. You know, Chad.
Is it to give it your all, to try your hardest?
No. Oh, that makes sense too. You know, give it all until you're empty.
Yeah, you're empty. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like you know, sometimes like say you know, someone were to drive past your house and yell, "Hey, you're stupid." And you stood up and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get my keys. We're gonna chase this guy down." And I'm like, "Chad, sometimes you just have to give empty, you know?
Just kind of forget about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, let it go. Let it go.
Let it go. Okay. All right. I think
Give empty.
Our people who are Frozen fans are definitely a fan of that.
I think it means more to like just like, you know, don't give it any don't give it
any attention, any thought.
Yeah, don't put any gas
Sure.
into the tank of that.
Right.
Of that.
Absolutely. That makes sense. All right, my last one for you today, Jared, is also Portuguese, and it is boa como a milho, which means as good as corn. As good as
average? Corn is corn great?
Girl, you good as corn.
Oh, it's like you're amazing essentially.
Yeah, you're
As good as
attractive, you're
corn.
sexy. Yeah.
You know, I think I struggle with that. Oh, it's specifically about a person's looks.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Corn. So, okay, it's just because they like corn a lot. Because, like, you don't really want a corn on the cob figure.
Right.
Thick but no curves, you know? It's like, nobody wants that.
No, definitely not.
All right, Chad. How are you at saying no? You're very good at saying no to me when it comes to this podcast, but
Well, I just use the Jared
No, I'm just
strategy,
kidding.
which is I just ignore it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm okay
that
at
was
it.
true, by the way.
I'm okay at it. I've gotten
is my
better as
strategy.
I've gotten older. I think the issue sometimes too about saying no, Jared, is at least for me, a lot of stuff people ask me to do, it's stuff I want to do. So I don't. So there's no intrinsic motivation for me to say no, right? Unless I'm too busy, or I think it's going to be too time consuming or something like that. But I think it's a very important skill to learn how to say no, and not only to learn how to, not only to know how to say no, but how to say it appropriately in different cultural contexts. Because the way we communicate with people cross-culturally is very different. You know, there's this idea of saying what you mean and meaning what you say, but also, you know, the language you use could mean something completely different than what you're saying, right? So, for example, I'll give you a quick example, Jared. In a lot of Asian countries, and I've experienced this in Indonesia and also in China, where if you ask someone something, they might say yes. They say yes not because they want to do something, but they say yes more like, yes, I understand. So I've actually heard from colleagues of mine who were also, you know, Westerners in China, that they would ask someone to do something and they would say yes, and then they would wait a week and they wouldn't, you know, get the document or have what they had. And it was only because it was like, yes, I understand what I need to do, not yes, I will do this for you. So I think that's very interesting because...
Whoa. What's the difference, though? Like, I understand I need to do it.
No. The difference is, yes, I understand versus yes, I will. Right? So
but if someone asks someone to do something, hey, could you do this for me? Yes, I understand. But not yes, I will.
But see, by you saying yes, if you just say yes and you leave it at yes, at least from what I've experienced, if you just say yes and you leave it at yes, it simply means like, I understand what you want. That doesn't mean I'm
Not
going
that I'll
to
do it.
what you want. Correct. Because in a lot of different cultures, saying no has different cultural implications. And I'll give you another example of mine about saying no in China. We were told very early on, if you are asked to do any extracurricular things on campus, right? Whether you want to do them or not, they basically told us in China, if the same person, and this is a generalization here, everyone's different, but culturally speaking, more often than not, if the same person asks you to do something and you say no 2 or 3 times, they usually won't approach you anymore to ask you to do things, which I find interesting. Just because
You don't think shouldn't that be the case? That sounds
I think yes in a lot of ways, but I think sometimes you can also say no for other reasons. But then,
So it's like I can't. I have a funeral to go to, and it's like, all right, well, this person said no. That was the second time. The first time he was busy. I understand this time, and now I was not even going to ask again.
Well, exactly. They view it as a this person doesn't have the time or they don't want to, so I'm not going to ask them in the future. And the reason why I bring this up, Jared, and the reason why I think it's worth saying it's important is because if you are living or working or teaching in Asia, I would keep this in mind because a lot of times you'll have a lot of great opportunities that come from your colleagues or people related to your school in some form or another asking you to do things. And if you say no too many times, then you won't even have the option to consider the opportunity. So that's why I think it's good in some contexts, even if you may not want to necessarily, to actually say yes and do something. And a lot of this has to do with relationship building too.
Okay, sure, of course. Yeah. I want to ask you, well, first of all, what the thing that I struggle hardest to say no to, thanks for asking, is
You're welcome.
is work-related stuff. That's
Sure.
I'm like as far as personal stuff, I think I'm pretty good at saying no if I want to say no.
Right.
But like work-related stuff, I struggle with. And I think the thing is like you feel like you don't want them to take it personally is really what it is, and you're afraid that if they take it personally somehow, that and not even like work assignments, but like social work related things I struggle with. I don't really have to say no to work things. Like I'm not that overloaded where where people are just putting so much stuff on me where I can't even do my job. It's more like personal stuff.
Right.
Like I mentioned to you how we had this socially distant happy hour thing a couple weeks ago, and they invited like me and it was like my team of coworkers was like 7 or 8 people, and it was in someone's backyard, and I said yeah in my head. I'm like, I don't think this is a great idea. It's like we don't really need to do this, but I was like I'll just go because I'm not gonna say no. So I'll just go whatever. And then my partner eventually was like, it's a bad idea. Say if you don't want to go, you need to say no. And I was like, all right, fine.
Yep.
And so what I did was like an hour before it started, I just emailed everyone and I was just like, sorry, I can't make it. And then my boss was like, it's not because the work thing. It's like I didn't give you. Like that wasn't too much. Like you don't have to stay work late and not come to this. I was like no, and I literally said no. It has nothing to do with that. And then they're like, but I was like I don't. It's like it's so weird to say no, and so it's like, and so it's just like, how about I just since I am going to do it, make it as vague as possible.
Right. Well, see, Jared, I think it's good you mentioned that because I think there are a few things going on here with the idea of saying no or nope or no thanks.
That's usually what I go to, which is also right behind you, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. No thanks. Nope.
I said the one I was talking about. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, right behind me. But I think there's a few kind of things going on underneath the surface here when people say no in general, right? And the reasons why I think a lot of people avoid it are a few reasons. Number one, and I think this is especially prevalent in a lot of Asian cultures, is they don't want any workplace conflicts. Now, obviously, nobody wants workplace conflicts, but I think they're viewed differently in different cultures. So, if you say no to your boss at a place in the United States, I don't think it's really going to cause that much turmoil unless it's, something that you really shouldn't be saying no to. Right. But if it's
what I'm saying no to is not work related. It's not part of my job in any sense.
Right. Which leads me to my second reason why I think a lot of people struggle and have problems with saying no, regardless of the culture. And I think that's because we simply don't want to disappoint others. I think
people's
that's
feelings.
Exactly. Exactly.
For sure.
I think a lot of the reasons why people say yes a lot, even to things they don't want to do, is for that specific reason.
Yeah. I needed someone to essentially force me to say no. And then I'm like,
shout out to your partner, just keeping you safe and healthy, Jared. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess so. They all, by the way, got COVID. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true. That's not true. That is not true.
I will say this though, Jared. I think at least as Americans, I can say, and I hope the international listeners will appreciate what I'm about to say here. I think for a lot of Americans, it's fine to say no to them, but a lot of Americans really want to know why.
That's what I hate. I don't even hate saying no.
Yeah, right.
I hate because I know the next question is going to be why.
Right.
I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm not going.
Right.
Don't worry about it.
Exactly. So yeah, it's
is that
really
an American thing or a part like a sort of like to ask? Oh, why not? Why can't you make it?
I think I would say it's an American thing because I've definitely with Germans I've been like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not going to come tonight, and I've had some German friends say, all right, we'll see you next time or something like that, and they don't really ask. I'm trying to think. My Czech friends. Trying to think. They also usually wouldn't ask why, but also now that I think about it, more often than not, I usually give a reason why when I say no, and that's probably me as an American,
covering your ass.
Yeah, saying I can't come tonight because I have too much grading to do, or I can't come tonight because I have to record a 70-hour podcast with my man Jared. So yeah, there's definitely some differences here.
We're talking a lot about like invites and stuff. I just in my head I have a list of sort of activities, and I want to get your general ranking on maybe us, you and I, but then maybe put it in the context of other cultures. How hard or easy it might be for some of these people to say no to
that'll be
various
fun.
events. Let's see. Let's start with a dinner party, a family dinner party.
Okay, and. So just would you? So you want me to say like, should I say no or not, or what do
if you don't want to go? Let's be clear. You don't want to go. We're assuming you're not. You don't want to go to any of these things.
Okay.
How hard would it be for you to say no in the situation?
So this is a dinner party, family dinner party, or just like one with friends?
Yeah.
Family dinner party. Okay. Oh, that's a tough one to say no to. Once again, I don't think I'd be able to say no to that one. Unless there's a really serious reason.
You need, you need a real big excuse.
Right.
And I think, and that one is definitely one I feel like you can't get out of without explaining, like giving an excuse.
For sure.
Well, if you go to friends, I think that one is one that might be hit or miss with. I can definitely say no. I can definitely say no. Let's be clear.
Right.
But I think most people, by the way, family is probably a hard thing, unless you don't like your family. But that could be anywhere.
Sure.
Granted, maybe it is even. Although I will say in other cultures, maybe it's even more disrespectful. Like the reason that you're saying no in certain cultures probably has to be a lot bigger than other cultures.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
Work related.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that, Jared. I would say at least my experience with Asian culture. I mean, the easiest scapegoat is always work. Always work.
I think that's the same here. I think that's.
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I would say so. I think work-related type of things are generally okay. Now, my experience when I got invited out to do things when I was still living in China, I said yes to almost all of them. There were a few of them I said no to. And I always, once again, this is the American in me, I guess. I always gave them a reason why.
Wow, now they're calling your home phone. These people really want to talk to you. Yes, everyone. Chad still has a home phone.
That's right. But yeah. So anyways, that's. But I guess that still goes back to the whole.
You can't like unplug that or something.
No, it's a cordless, man. What do you? It's cordless. I don't know how you. I could hang up. I don't know. I actually don't know who this is.
I almost guarantee it's probably some sort of telemarketer. No one actually calls a home phone anymore. It's only telemarketers or scams these days.
Right.
By the way, scams are up crazy numbers during this the pandemic.
I believe it.
Okay, with friends would be easier. I would have no problem saying no, and it doesn't like I might there could be even a certain situation where I'd be saying no, and I don't really have a good excuse.
Right.
But I also know the good excuse is I just don't want to go, which is definitely an excuse I could have, and I think I could do that, and I could say that no. What's another one? Let's say someone is asking you to do a work assignment.
And
you
you
can't-
don't want to
you-
do it.
you don't wanna do
and
it.
you gotta say no. Yeah, I mean, once again, I would. It's the same thing. I guess I'm gonna sound
Okay.
like a broken record this episode, but once again, for me, it would be I don't have the time. I'm focusing on this project, or something like that.
I've noticed that at my job, there's a mix of people that some of them, actually, my boss, who's Italian, is very good at being honest with his workload and saying no. But there are other people that take on stuff to the point where it's like where they're overflowing themselves, and it's like you're helping now. Like you're trying to say yes to everyone and be like super helpful, but now everything's suffering. And I feel like there's certainly like it just reminds me of maybe like the Chinese culture. I can imagine it being like based off of what you've been saying, like very much a faux pas.
Oh yeah,
To say like no, I can't do this, even if you have like a legitimate reason.
right.
And I could see it.
That's where the culture of saying no gets fascinating, though, Jared, because then you have to pick and choose what you're saying no to.
And that's
Because
also probably why things like yes come in more, where it's like I'm saying yes, and I need to make it clear that I'm hearing you, but also like it feels like there's a weirder gray area with that
Right.
yes, where it's like I didn't fully say I do it, I just
Right. Right.
But I can't say I won't do it,
Right. And I can tell you, at least in the case of China, Guanxi, which is all about face and relationships, is a very big deal over there, and you don't want to lose face. I think a very fast way to lose face is to say no to somebody if it's something important. And that's why it's really difficult. Like, I have a Chinese friend who lives in Beijing, and he works crazy hours. And then if his boss is like, all right, we've been working for 12 hours, now we're going to go out to the KTV and drink beers all night and have fun. Yeah, that was my buddy, by the way, who just called the house.
Was it really?
He wanted to do a social distancing beer. I texted him, told him I was recording a podcast. So shout out to my buddy Jake. Sorry, buddy, recording a podcast right now. But
Who calls the house phone? What is this? This is not 2002. That was crazy. I can imagine your mom answering. Is Chad there?
Right. But yeah, so anyways, it's interesting too, like what people prioritize over, because I think it also depends on kind of the type of relationship you have, right? Like there's really no I guess the only risk you have if you say no to your family is they might get upset or irritated. Maybe they might disown you or something.
Right.
But if you say no to your boss, you could lose your job, you could lose your income, your livelihood. So it's interesting how that plays out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I was kind of afraid with even the socially distant happy hour thing, where it's like, yeah, this isn't work, but still, like it's maybe like next time something comes up, he's just going to be like, oh, Jared probably won't go, or something like that. Like that might cross his mind. I was like, I don't need him to think I probably won't go. How about saying no to a beer in Czech Republic versus saying no to a beer in, I don't know, the U.S., Germany, for example?
Oh, dear Lord, man. Well, to our listeners who are new listeners, I had a month in the Czech Republic when I didn't drink alcohol, wasn't sure if I had mono or not, so just to play it safe, I just didn't drink, and it was incredibly difficult. But that also goes back to
Did you
Czech
ever give
culture.
in?
I mean, I had a couple Radlers, which is like half beer, half lemonade. Yeah, I did. I did. But I didn't like go out to the bars or anything like that.
Right.
And that was also, once again, I was at someone's house. They offered it to me. I said no. They kept offering it, and I was like, well,
Yeah, so you have to. You feel like you have to placate these people somehow.
Right. There's kind of this weird like risk assessment where I think we make in our minds. At least
like, how bad is mono really?
Right. One beer's not going to kill you too much. But what's interesting though too, Jared, about saying no and interacting with people, I think there's a lot of cultures, especially Asian cultures, where saying no is almost too direct and kind of harsh in a way. Like, now that I'm thinking back, the amount of times I asked my Chinese counterparts to help me with something, they always said yes. They were always incredibly helpful. And I think some of that had to do with they were genuinely interested in helping me. But I think some of it was also that they, don't really say no that much over there.
It's interesting that you say that, because I agree. I hear what you're saying, and I feel like Here, it's like when you're in a position like I'm at in a company where you're just some middleman. It's hard to say no, but then once you start becoming a leader, I think the more you go up the leader chain, the more it sort of becomes admired to be able to say no, and to like that almost becomes that it goes from a negative quality to a positive quality somewhere as you start to become a boss. So like work wise, I get it. We keep talking about these Chinese cultures, and I get it.
Right.
Maybe the thing is, it's probably harder at all levels there, not just. Oh shoot! I had another one. I feel like back to alcohol. I feel like here in the U.S., it's easy to say no to it's maybe not even the hanging out part, but specifically the drinking of the alcohol part.
Yeah,
I would say that's a pretty easy. That we don't hold like drinking is a common thing for us to commune around. But if someone doesn't want to drink, I think people are usually in general pretty like no one really cares for the most part. But my mom, for example, she used to have to go to Russia once or twice a year for work at this old company she used to work for.
Привет.
And she's a wine drinker, but she doesn't drink liquor at all, really. And she had to. She every time she went, she knew, and before she left, she'd be like, here in Michigan, she'd be like, I'm gonna have to like take at least like 2 or 3 shots with these people. Like you just can't drink, like you can't turn down the vodka.
But see, that's the dangerous thing too. That's the dangerous thing though too about saying yes to something, because in Chinese culture as well, if you're at, I had plenty of luncheons with schools. I would go and give workshops, and I would meet the principals. And, at the schools, these guys were the top dogs. They were the highest, authority figure. And so if you start drinking alcohol with them, you start when they start and you stop when they stop. So it's actually, in some ways, it's smarter if you can say no. Now, I will say this, though. A lot of times, at least with my experience in China, if you say no because you don't feel like it or you don't want to, it's not always a good enough excuse. A lot of times, you might just have to say, I don't drink alcohol, and then hope to God they never see you out in public at a bar. But I had I
guess I'm sober now.
Right. I had a lot of people offer me cigarettes. There were these really, really nice security guards in front of the gate at my university, Shandong Normal University. And these guys were my homies. These guys I would always greet when I walked into campus and always greet when I would leave, with the very rudimentary Chinese that I know. And they were super friendly. And one guy he'd usually be having a smoke, and he'd hold up his pack and kind of, motion to me if I wanted one. And one of the few things I can say in Chinese is I don't want. So I just said 不要. But that's also different than saying no. I don't want is a little different than saying no. If I knew how to say in Chinese, I don't smoke, which I probably should have learned after he did that the first time, would have been smart. Then I could have said that, and then they understand.
That's something I never thought about is that, you did definitely, like, this was one of the first places you went to where it's like, all right, no is not really an option. It's more just like, why you just, I guess it works for you though, because you always, you say you always like to give don't even have to say the no part, just go straight to the excuse. Right.
Now I want to give you a couple, Jared,
filled with excuses.
How you would say no to.
Okay.
So say you visit someone for a dinner, and they offer you a food that you maybe don't like or doesn't look good. What do you do, and how do you handle that situation?
Yeah.
And that one is different in different cultures, too.
Yeah. Though that's tough because the reason, especially, it's tough because of the reason. There's no good reason except I'm scared, essentially.
Right.
That's essentially the reason.
Right.
And so what I would do... I would not lie and say I'm allergic. But I might lie and say I've had it before and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I might lie and say, try this.
I did that in China. I did that in China.
I have and I don't like it.
Yeah.
It might be my lie. But saying I don't think I like it or it tastes, smells gross, that's not going to work.
Well, yeah, that's incredibly rude, sure.
It's rude too, yeah.
Right, yeah. That's how to get kicked out of a dinner party very quickly is do that. So that smells gross. No,
my go-to would be I've had it before and I don't like it. Although sometimes I have been in situations where no, I can't. I'm trying to think of one as I say this, but I feel like I have been in situations where I'm like, just try it. Like you're not in a place to. Oh, I'll say this.
Right.
Guacamole, which I still don't love. Like I don't hate it, but I don't
so good.
love. The only reason I really started bothering to eat it was mostly because I was on a date with some girl, and I was like, and she ordered like for the table, and I'm like, I don't want to be like, I don't really like guacamole. I'm just
Right.
like, just eat it. It's
Right.
just easier.
Yeah.
That way.
Got to pick your battles for sure.
And
You have to
then, and then
pick your
as I was
battles.
eating it, I was like, I mean, I guess it's fine. The consistency is not my favorite, and it doesn't have enough taste to lure me in. It's kind of
Right.
almost tasteless. I don't know.
I will
It's just-
tell you though, Jared, that is a very good method in China, at least from what I experienced. When I would go out to eat with Chinese people, they always wanted me to try, crazy stuff. Well, at least what I would consider crazy, what they would probably consider fairly tame or normal. But a lot of times, if I
Do you think they
just didn't
wanted
want to
like-
deal with it,
Is it just because? Do you think that some of it was
It's a
just they
shock
wanted
value.
to test the whitey?
oh yeah, oh for
Let's play
sure,
Test the
for
Whitey.
sure. I was the token white guy, of course. That's one big reason. But I would usually be able to diffuse the situation much more easily
Easier?
by saying. That I had tried it before and I didn't like it. But the interesting thing is, at least my experience with a lot of Chinese people, when I would say I didn't like that, they would ask me why. And I don't know if it was a second language barrier thing or what it was, but it's like how do you respond to that? Like, okay, yeah, I don't like the taste, I don't like the consistency, but once again, that just boils back down to I don't like it.
Yeah, and that always goes back to my little thing in my head where I'm like, it doesn't
Right.
matter why.
Right.
But obviously that's I think part of my culture.
Now, I want to give just a couple, before we start to talk a little bit more about other cultures, I do want to talk about some ways, since we were on the topic of food, some ways to say no politely about food or drink in different countries. Because some of these are
okay.
kind of interesting. So number one, if you're in the Cologne, kind of the Rhineland, as they call it, or the northern part of the Rhineland, it feels so weird saying that in English because I always say it in German. A lot of times, if you're out drinking beer and they drink what they call a Kölsch, which is like a Cologne-style beer, which comes in these little 0.2 liter skinny little glasses, at traditional breweries over there, if you don't put your coaster above the beer, they'll keep bringing you beers. So that's one way to say no, is you put your coaster above your beer. And there are places in the Czech Republic that do the same as well.
I just thought of another one that I used. One that I used in Tanzania occasionally was I'm not hungry.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
That was one, because and sometimes it's like it's like there's no way you've had this before, first of all.
Right, for sure.
And so I'm not hungry was one I used as well.
Right. Yeah, that's an important one for sure. But you
then-
just got to be
but then
careful
you
not to
gotta-
eat.
Yeah,
afterwards,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's why you have to be careful with this stuff. But yeah, there are also other cultures where if you eat, I'm forgetting which now, but other cultures where if you eat all the food off your plate, that can either mean give me more, I want more, I'm still hungry, or it can mean I'm full. What's interesting. Now, I'm pretty sure, at least I've been trying to do my homework on Russia because I'm still hoping and praying I can go in September. I'm hoping the more I say this on the podcast, Jared, the more likely it will become true. So I apologize to our listeners. But anyways, at least I thought I read something that said in Russia you want to leave a little bit left on your plate to show that, oh, I'm stuffed, I'm full.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
Which makes sense. Whereas, I know at
If
least
you clear the plate, it's like, oh, you ate it all. You must still be hungry.
must still be hungry. Exactly. So I think
guess-
that's
yeah,
really
that makes
interesting.
sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting how.
Ooh,
how
I
other
couldn't eat
places do
another bite, and then there's literally just one bite there.
that. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've definitely been in situations here in the U.S. where it's like, oh, I couldn't eat another bite, and there is like one bite left, and people will be like, oh, just finish it. I think not finishing food is sort of a weird thing in the U.S. because I think it's definitely
It's
not.
viewed as wasteful.
It is viewed as wasteful, but we are wasteful people.
True.
But I think it's
Yeah.
also it's almost viewed as it is sort of viewed as like a, at least let's put it this way, in my Southern family, it is sort of viewed as a not a disrespect thing, but like what did I do wrong with this meal? Like what
Right.
didn't you like about it, or like what's wrong with it?
Sure.
And so that's definitely so I've definitely learned with a lot of, not just my family, but especially when I go to the South, that like, or I do it now just in general, but like if I'm getting something, make sure I want all of it, because there's a chance that this old lady might ask me like, what is wrong with
what's wrong with my green beans? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
you definitely don't want that. That's for sure. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other instances as well. I think the interesting thing though too is way other cultures say no without saying it. Right? Like I mentioned at the top of the episode, I've heard from a lot of different Middle Eastern countries where if they say inshallah, meaning God willing, that basically means like it's probably not going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
I've heard from friends of mine who have taught English in Japan. Japanese people say it's difficult. And what it's difficult means is basically like either yes, it is difficult, or I don't want to do it, or I don't have the time to do it.
A popular work one. This is very popular at not just the job I have now, all jobs I've had. I'll look into it.
Yeah, yep.
It's like, in my head, I'm like, you are never going to look into this. And I don't blame you, because I've said that too.
Right. Yeah, and it's all about the subtleties, and that still, in a way, is kind of saving face, right? Because if you say no, it's too direct, it also, I think, makes the other person feel like, oh, like, all right, well, I guess I'm not worth your time or energy, you know?
Right, and the thing about I'll look into it, is, or another one is, the thing about I'll look into it is you're kind of saying no, essentially, but I've probably been in situations where someone has, said that to me and said, I'll look into it, which is like, I'll probably forget as soon as I leave this room. I'm saying that because we're in a big meeting here, but occasionally they'll email you after and be like, hey, just reminding you about, and it's like, all right, now will look into it.
Right.
And so
I think that's an American thing.
But I think some of that, so that goes to that sort of perceived, like, all right, if I don't remind this person, they're not going to get back to me. Like, that's sort of just a generic, like, oh, interesting kind of thing,
Yeah.
And so I do respect, like, then they'll actually will do it if you make a point to go back and remind them of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So let's discuss, I guess, some other ways, though, too, that people might say no. I think we'll see or maybe is sometimes one. The other thing, though, too,
maybe,
Jared,
that's not going to happen. I hate maybe.
Yeah, I don't like maybes either. Just tell me no at that point. But you know what, though, Jared? What's also interesting about the power of the word no. I remember when I was in graduate school, I asked a buddy of mine, buddy that you actually know as well, if he wouldn't mind just proofreading my essay, right? And I knew he was a busy guy. I was a busy guy at the time as well. But I had helped him out with some stuff, and so I asked him, and I just remember him straight up being like no. And I remember now, even still, I remember the way I felt when I heard him just be like no. And it was because it comes off almost a little too direct, at least to me. Maybe I'm being a little sensitive here, but I feel like
Brazilian soccer playing.
It was.
I could totally imagine him doing that.
Yeah, it was. And for me, I think, and once again, it's what I mentioned before. If he would have just said, "I'm really sorry, I'm busy, I can't," that comes off completely different as just no.
Right.
And I think it also,
even though that's essentially what he was saying.
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same exact thing.
But there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot around cushioning people's feelings going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtlety and nuances, and the way we have to navigate this cross-culturally can be really difficult sometimes.
But again, I kind of respect that. Where it's like, I'm just being honest with you. I'm not going to do it. Like there's no reason. There really is. He doesn't have to give you an excuse. Really, he's just saying, no, I'm not going to do it. But there is that sort of there is like levels of hurting feelings in every culture where it's like, well, let me not hurt this. Where it's like, I don't really have to explain. Like he doesn't owe you doing that. I guess he kind of did, but theoretically he doesn't owe you, and theoretically he doesn't have to explain it to you. But still, it's like, oh, just so I don't hurt this person's feelings, let me give him a bunch of reasons why I can't do it.
Right. That's true.
I think sometimes though, when I hear people give those excuses. Sometimes it's like, just say, like sometimes I feel like I would prefer people like, just say no. Now these excuses are just starting to sound like you don't, I don't know. Sometimes it sounds even more insulting to hear the excuses.
Right. Well, I think there needs to be a healthy balance, because if you just come off, at least for me, if you just come off and say no, I'm like, all right, well, I guess, all the stuff that I've done for you in the past, because I thought, you would also respect my, needing your help and taking a little bit out, of your time.
Sure.
But yeah, one thing that's interesting though too, Jared, is I think a lot of ways many cultures avoid saying no is they use hypotheticals. Like, oh yeah, we can try that, or that's a great idea. I think that's another way.
Oh my gosh, that's another huge work one.
Right.
Where it's and someone gives recommendations, it's like, oh, that would be interesting.
Right. And that used to drive me crazy when I was teaching in China, because I would ask my colleagues, we would share lesson plans occasionally and stuff, and I would ask for feedback. And I would ask for constructive criticism. And in a lot of Asian countries, you will never get direct, feedback or constructive criticism, because that's just not the way they culturally approach things. On the other hand, though, I have also seen and heard stories about teachers, saying no to their students because it's an authority thing. But then also the way the teachers might say no or react to the students in some Asian cultures, I also don't think is the healthiest way to always handle things.
And see, that goes back to my, in the U.S., there becomes a point, like you start off as someone that should never say no and slowly become, as you work your way up to CEO, become respected for the things that you turn down or the things that you're saying no to.
Right.
Or like actors. One of the things that big actors are respected for, oh, they said no to that role. Yeah, it was a big payday, but they thought it was a shitty movie, and they wouldn't. Right. And it's like that's impressive.
Right. And the other reason why I think this whole thing is important and worth talking about today, Jared, is because in a lot of countries where they aren't big no-sayers, you also have to be aware. I think a lot of Americans can be flaky. We'll say yes to plans and then we'll flake, meaning we won't follow up or follow through with those plans. However, I think in a lot of other cultures where there's more of an emphasis on harmony and kind of keeping a balance and things like this, you want to save face. So if I say, if we were in China, Jared, and you were one of my Chinese students, I might say, oh, Jared, I'm doing this conversation hour on Wednesday. I would love it if you could come. Are you free? And you might say yes. And then my language day or my conversation hour rolls around a few days later, and I'm looking around and I'm like, what the heck? Jared said he said yes. He seemed excited. I thought he was going to be here. Now he's not here. So I think it's important to be aware of this, because sometimes saying yes can just be a polite formality, but it isn't the same thing as really saying yes.
I will be there.
Right. Right.
Or yes, I will do it. Or I will do it is. Right. I'm trying to think if we have a word like that. And sure.
Perhaps.
Yeah, but all of those. But yeah, I'm sure we do, but I can't think of it right now.
Right.
Do you have any? I'm trying to think of some other. Do you have any other situations that maybe you struggle to say no in, or maybe that come with ease to you?
Well, I think if it's anything that if it's something that I kind of have three things I try to think about, Jared, when someone asks me to do something. Does this person really need my help? Because if they're just being lazy and they can do it themselves, I'm not going to do it. Right. If one of my students, I have students ask me all the time about resources, where can I find this? Where can I find that? A lot of the times, if it's very specific, I will send it to them. But if they're curious, teacher, how do I properly, use past tense verbs? Right. I'm going to tell them, look, go online. You can find stuff. Now, if they have more specific questions, usually I'll try to answer them. But basically, so my criteria are three things, Jared. So can they do it themselves, right? Do they really need my assistance? If they don't really need my assistance and they're just being lazy, I personally think it's better for them to look it up and do it themselves. Okay, so that's my first one. My second one is, what will I get out of this? What I mean by that is, will I get a sense of fulfillment by helping my students? Will I learn something by doing a new task? Will I maybe make some connections with someone or something like this? So can they do it themselves? If not, then I'll help them. What will I get out of it as well? And then also, how time consuming is it? Because if it's incredibly time consuming, and it's not incredibly important, we all only have this 24 hours in a day. Sometimes you just have to say no because it's not going to be worth your time.
Yeah. Sometimes that reminds me. Sometimes if I've helped people say no to me. So like at work, especially now that people are working from home and stuff is weird. Some people are busier than others, and there's someone that I needed something from, and I almost wanted not even need it, but I was looking for some information, and in the email I made it clear. I was like, I know you're busy. This is not a priority. And I tried to I'm letting you say no if you need to say no. I definitely made a point to be like, hey, listen, say no if you got to say no.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's just because I think with subconsciously I recognize that no one wants to say no, and I know that person probably is going to force themselves to do something they couldn't. Well, she did it, but still, I don't know. I'm just very aware of it in my day-to-day life. Just one more crazy sort of struggle to say no culture thing that I feel like we got to talk about. The fact that airplanes have crashed in Japan, Korea, is it? Due to, you haven't heard, not recently, by the way, not recently.
Okay. Still it's not good, but yeah.
Due to co-pilots not being able to tell the pilot that they're doing something wrong. Have you heard about that?
Oh no, I haven't. That's
you
terrible.
Haven't?
Though
I got to pull it up.
That's crazy.
Man.
That is absolutely terrible. But once again, it's all about this idea of hierarchy and respect. But I think cultures, and it's easy for me to say here as someone.
Oh yeah, it was Korean, by the way, in 1999. Because something was going wrong, and the co-pilot couldn't tell the pilot because he was a superior, to fix it, and he just let it happen.
Oh man, yeah, that's terrible. I think we should embrace saying no in a respectful manner. In many different cultures, but I think some of the reasons why is a lot of times, I know at least what I've read about Middle Eastern cultures, a lot of times if you say no often, they view it as having bad character. Like I don't know, maybe you're lazy or you're...
can't trust this person.
Right. So I think it's important to keep that in mind as well. But I think there needs to be a healthy way that we can say no to other people without offending them too much, because... Yeah. Realistically, it's difficult, Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say, people have to be able to say no without concerning themselves about how much they offend someone. But I think that's a very American statement. So I would agree with that. But say I don't totally agree with it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning that in a lot of Asian cultures, as we've said, saying no is viewed oftentimes as very impolite. So maybe instead of saying no, you'll say, I'm not sure if I'll have time. You're still using a negative. I'm not sure if I'll have time, but I'll try. I think in an Asian culture, if you say that, that's much better than just saying, no, I can't.
See, that's interesting, and I get that, but I think in the U.S. it'd be more respectful to say no, because I feel like there's some. It's kind of rude to be like, I'll try and then just not show up without even because then if you do that, then I feel like you definitely have to give an excuse then, because it's like, oh, you said you try, what happened?
But once again, Jared, these are also different cultural implications, right? If you are, for me as a Westerner and you as a Westerner. If I said, or as an American, us both as Americans, if you told me no, I'm not gonna be, unless you're like no, I'm not probably gonna be too irritated by it. But I'm just thinking of like my colleagues in China, me saying no to them. I think it would be more implied if I said, I'm not sure, let me see. I think to them that is a no. You know what I mean? For us, we think, oh, maybe that's
They're
a no.
actually gonna look at like, yeah. But I'll see means I probably can't, but I'll definitely try my hardest to.
Right. Now, Jared, you may be wondering, or maybe our listeners are wondering why this is the case. And I think at least I can speak in the case of China, not necessarily other countries, but I think a lot of the idea of not saying no is due to their history. China had numerous different empires or dynasties, and they had different classes, right? And so if you accidentally said no to someone that was higher up than you, I mean, you could legit get killed. You could be beheaded. So I think that, a lot of these reasons why we do things in different cultures, there are really long and deep roots, that a lot of people might not be aware of.
Well, I think that's why no is so respected here in the U.S. is because, one, our country's kind of founded on rebellion to begin with.
Oh, for sure.
And two, we have this very strong, like, individualistic, like, nature to our character. So it's like, oh, this person did it by themselves, or this person didn't take any help. Like, these sort of things are very, respected among. And so I think that it's like our individualistic culture makes it more impressive when someone like below says like, oh, I don't need this person above me's help. I'll do it by myself.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you could take that to someone else and be like, oh, I said no to this big person, and they might respect that. Where in China it would be like, oh, you said no to that person? Like why would you do that?
Right, exactly. So I guess just to end our main segment today, Jared, about saying no, I want to leave our listeners with a few ways to do this in other cultures, just because I don't want anyone, after listening to our podcast, send us a message and be like, hey, I was visiting this country and I said no, and I got in big trouble, right? So we're going to give you so we're going to give you some ways to do it. So it seems like, at least in a lot of in Japanese culture, it seems very common to use the term "that's very difficult," as I mentioned, right? So that could mean the task is impossible, I don't want to do it, or it's difficult, but I'll try my best. So yeah, and if you hear someone say it is difficult, you might want to ask them, is it possible to get this done, right? Or do you have time to do this, right? Another one to say no in a lot of different countries, I think, is I will think about that. I'll think about it. And I think that
annoys me.
I mean, it annoys me as a Westerner as well, but we need to have other ways to, culturally
in my head, that's a full no. I'll think about it as a full no.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I remember when I was a kid and my dad would say, yeah, I'll think about it. It was like, okay, that's not
happening.
That's not happening. Yep, for sure. But I think it's really important to be aware of these things, right? You need to be aware of, if you are asked to do something but you can't or you don't want to do it, you need to find a way to still be respectful and not damage some of these cultural, countercultural, cross-cultural, relationships here, especially if it's your bosses or people you're working with. And I will say this, Jared, in my experience, it seems like there are a lot more misunderstandings between the East and the West, just because, as you and I have already said this episode, like, it drives us crazy saying, yeah, I'll think about it, or we'll see. Whereas over there, if you say that, it's just like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to have to find another way to get this finished or ask another person. Yeah. So
I'm with you.
And once again, this all goes back to the idea of what people say and what they actually mean. So definitely keep that in mind when you are abroad, working, making friends, and let us know at Untranslatable Podcast, untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com if you have any other tips, strategies, or ways to say no in different cultures. But now I think it's time, Jared, we talk about our bangin' song of the pod today. The title of our song is called Bin Back, which is a beautiful Danglish title. Bin is German for M, so I am back, by the artist EAZ. I don't know if they call him Ease or EAZ, but yeah.
I'm going to guess it's Ease. I'm going to guess it's Ease. First of all, this song does not sound like it's from, it's not, let's be clear. It doesn't sound like it's from 2020. It doesn't sound like it's from 2015, which I think is when it is from. I like the vibe, but at least as far as, if you put it on a timeline of sounding, it sounds like something from like the early 2000s or like late 90s, if it were to be like an American style. But I like the beat. I like how the timpani, the use of that timpani drum in there. Do do do. And then he goes into the next verse. I like that.
For sure.
And he's rapping about how he's back. He's on. I don't know. I like it. It's some good pump up stuff. Good pump up.
Oh, for sure.
It's pretty good. It makes me move a little bit. But I'll be honest with you. I think it does sound very of its time. And I only bring that up to say that like I feel like I like it the 2 or 3 times I listen to it. But it would be hard for me to like go back to it because it just has like this weird sort of sound to it.
Sure. Yeah.
Like timing wise.
Right. Now I had asked Jared before we started recording where you might think this artist is from. Any guesses, Jared? Where Ease might be from?
At first, I hadn't really thought about it. But then I listened to...
You just assumed he was German, didn't you, Jared?
But then as you brought that up, the song was playing underneath, and I heard he mentioned something about his Turkish roots. Or Turkish vibe is what he said, or something like that.
I think he does have Turkish heritage, but no, he is Swiss.
He's Swiss.
He's Swiss.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't had any Swiss German or artists from Switzerland rapping in German, so I thought this would be a cool one.
Yeah.
I was also hoping that I could find one that was Schweizerdeutsch, which is the Swiss German dialect.
I can actually understand that though. That was
well, that's because it's not Schweizerdeutsch. But there are certain words he says that, at least to my ear, and I've taken classes on German dialects, so I know more than your common German learner.
Sure.
That
what you're saying is you know better than me, and that's okay.
That's right, Jared.
You should.
That's right. I have a master's. You don't have a master's. In theory, I guess that piece of paper should
Much like
should at
saying
least say
no.
that.
That was a very nice way of saying I know better than you.
But he says he doesn't say ich. He says ish. If you hear him,
yeah,
and that's like
a
part of that kind of area of dialects.
I guess I noticed that. I just didn't think much of it.
Right.
I'm just like, well, that's just how he says it.
Right.
And also, I thought maybe there's, he's from some place in Germany where they say that. So yeah,
right.
But I liked it.
It's definitely a banger. It's got some good vibes.
Is.
I feel like it would be a good. You're like riding down the street in your car and you crank it kind of tune.
Alone in the car.
Yep.
Volume all the way up kind of song.
Oh,
for
sure.
Or
Definitely.
like with the homies kind of thing.
Oh, for sure. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So check that out on our YouTube channel, Untranslatable Podcast, at the Song of the Pod playlist. Been Back by Ease. You'll definitely enjoy it. Turn it up. So we have now come to our foreign word of the pod, Jared.
Like my dad. Turn it up, kids.
That's right. And I want you to try to read this one again, Jared. I'm very confident I can teach you. My goal is to teach you Cyrillic by episode 230. You're going to be able to read Cyrillic like a champ.
Okay, this is brand new. Like, but by brand new, I mean, let me tell you, for the listeners, let me just say what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Backwards A. Oh, is that a backwards A?
No, that's a regular A.
Okay, no one writes A's that way, so I only see that in like one of those A's that's not that you don't see anymore.
Right. We Americans write the A's with the stem going down, whereas this one it's an A with the stem going up.
Yes.
But I think some fonts do have an A like that.
Yeah, like I've seen, like you see it more on a computer, but no one writes. No,
definitely
anymore.
not.
But and then there's a capital B, which I assume is some sort of accent or some sort of emphasis.
No, that one is a V.
Okay,
it's a V
then
sound.
There's a O, C, and lowercase b, which is the accent or the emphasis.
The soft or hard sound, yeah.
Soft or hard sound. That's different than emphasis.
No, I guess emphasis, yeah. Soft or hard.
Okay,
yeah.
So is it? Avoch.
So the ch sound in Russian looks kind of like a squared W. So it's not a ch sound or a sh sound.
Avots.
You're getting you sound like a British guy, but you're getting closer. It's avos.
Avos.
And avos, Jared, means maybe or perhaps.
So I wonder if it maybe or perhaps avos. I like that. So I wonder if it didn't have that little lowercase b, would it be avots? I wonder. Like, would that switch it up?
Well, I think it's the. I'm not sure.
Or if you put the B in the middle or something instead of at the end.
Right. This would be a David question, unfortunately.
Yeah.
This is above my pay grade and my Russian skills so far, Jared. But yeah, avos maybe.
Okay.
So, yeah, which I think is the way a lot of cultures do say no without actually saying no. That's for sure.
Sure.
So to recap today's episode, I think it's safe to say that Americans and a lot of Western countries, and I'm generalizing here, but tend to be okay with saying no. In the States, though, we do prefer you generally to give some reason why. I would say. I think in a lot of Asian countries, it's more expected that you express yourself not by saying no directly, but it's more implied. And that's because you don't want to lose face with that other person. In Middle Eastern cultures, it really seems to be you don't say no because it reflects poorly on your character. And I'm not really, I guess, according to what I read, the way you would respond to that would be by saying inshallah, meaning God willing. I also, though, don't know, and our listeners out here, please let me know. Please educate me about this. I'm not sure if it's impolite or disrespectful to say that if you are not of the Muslim faith. If you don't follow Islam, maybe it's rude or disrespectful to say inshallah. I don't know. I really don't.
If you're speaking Arabic, but if you're speaking
Arabic, you could say it, though, because that is the Arabic word.
Sure.
Right.
And then also in another one, from my experience in Germany, they definitely respect directness.
Oh,
and
of course.
I think there's sort of the vibe around like, don't waste my time.
Right. Same with Czech Republic too.
And
I would
so
say.
You don't have like there's maybe less need to temper your no.
Right. And my last piece of advice for all of our listeners out there who are navigating sometimes these very difficult cross-cultural waters is ask follow-up questions. If you ask someone to do something and they say, we'll see, I would ask some follow-up questions. I don't mean prod them because that's also, I guess, could be considered a little rude or impolite. But at the same time, if I ask someone in Asia, in China, would you mind, doing this for me? And they say, well, we'll see, or it's too difficult. I might say, okay, what's the issue? Do you not have time? If you don't have time, I can ask someone else.
A follow-up
things like
question
that.
I like, and this is for especially the Americans. A follow-up question that I like, because there is always that like need to be like, why? I don't like that, but if you're going to follow up, I like is there anything I can do, or are you okay, or is there anything I can help with, or something like that?
That's great, because that also takes the pressure off of that person. And actually, I guess a semi-related last little tidbit I'll say, Jared, is that a lot of people who work in HR, what they'll do is they will deflect the problem off of the person. So in English, you would use that by doing the passive voice. Instead of saying, you didn't send me the email, you would just say, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't receive the email yesterday. Or maybe there were issues,
That was
just
kind of
a
dumb,
little
because
tip.
it's kind of hard to email send now. That doesn't happen anymore.
Right. Yeah. Well, Anyway,
But I hear
sometimes
you.
it's safer
I hear you.
to take the pressure off that person.
I gotcha.
So let us know how you say no in different countries or in different languages at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. Check out our Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast, for awesome pics of us saying yes, because we're doing lots of great things on there. Also, please, 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Let us know how we can make this podcast better for you. So, as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, dziękujemy, muchas gracias, shisha, and do svidania. There we go. Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, yep. I tried to, and if you listen closely, Jared, it's reversed. You hear that?
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah.
reverses the pitch. So yeah, I thought that was kind of clever. As a Hendrix fan, I always love, kind of weird studio tricks like that.
Yeah. So did you literally like edit that, or just actually do it?
There's a setting where you can put it in, so it's like a reverse effect.
Okay.
But then the trick is figuring out what to play that will sound good in reverse.
Sure.
A lot of times it's just noodling, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I like it.
I like that echo. Yeah, that's really cool.
So next episode is.